Spoiler warning for Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. It's hard to write a compelling story that is critically acclaimed and loved by the masses, and it's even harder to make a prequel to that story. There's an inherent pressure and expectation from the fans of the original that it will be just as good, if not better, than the source material. Not to mention, you have to create a story with dramatic stakes, which is a seemingly impossible task considering the audience knows where and how the story will end. Since 2015, Better Call Saul has been making the case for it being the best prequel ever made by not only creating a story that is rich and engaging by itself, but also changing the way we enjoy its source material, Breaking Bad. Saul Goodman was a fan-favorite, comic relief character in Breaking Bad, but we were seldom given the opportunity to explore his past or personal life. The same goes for Mike Ehrmantraut. Even though we spent some time with Mike and his granddaughter Kaylee, there was still an air of mystery surrounding his past, especially with his time as a Philly police officer.
That your tenure as a police officer ended somewhat dramatically. You want to talk about that?
Not particularly.
Better Call Saul expands on these stories to create characters that are just as layered and as tragic as Walter White or Jesse Pinkman. In order to properly convey how Better Call Saul has changed the way we view these characters and events in Breaking Bad, I want to analyze two scenes. First, a scene from Breaking Bad, then a scene from Better Call Saul, and finally go back to the scene from Breaking Bad and see how context has changed the way we interpret the tone. In the season finale of Season 3, Walt is taken by Victor to the laundromat, where he is met by Mike Ehrmantraut. Earlier in this episode, we see Mike take out a warehouse full of guards with little remorse or hesitation. Both Walt and the audience recognize what Mike's presence means for Walt. He has come here to die. Walt tells Mike,
"You don't have to do this."
To which Mike responds,
"Yeah, unfortunately I do, Walter."
Mike is cold and unforgiving in this exchange, leading the audience to believe it's only unfortunate for Walter. After all, we've seen nothing thus far to give us the impression that Mike has a problem with killing at all. In fact, he may even enjoy it, given how he was basically toying with the warehouse guards. Walter continues to plead for his life, to which Mike blows up on him and says,
"Shut up. I can't do it. I'm sorry."
Now, of course, Mike isn't sorry. He's simply saying it as a courtesy for Walter in what he believes to be Walt's last moments alive. Now that that's been established, let's take a look at how Better Call Saul adds deeper subtext to this scene through Mike's history in Albuquerque. Mike retired from his job as a Philly police officer after brutally killing the people who betrayed and murdered his son. Mike carries with him an immense amount of guilt from breaking his son after revealing to his son that he was a dirty cop.
And I had to show him that I was down in the gutter with the rest of them. I broke my boy.
When Mike arrives in Albuquerque, he vows to put that life behind him and walk a straighter line.
"I know people. I can get you some work."
I am not looking for that kind of work.
Mike then meets Nacho through his time working as a bodyguard, and Nacho hires Mike as a hitman to take out Tuco. But Mike ultimately decides that killing Tuco would bring more pressure from the cartel onto Nacho and figures out a way to get Tuco locked up without killing him. After the incident, Nacho asks Mike,
"Just saying you went a long way to not pull that trigger. Why?"
And Mike silently stares at Nacho before walking away. This hints to the audience that the decision to not kill Tuco by Mike was much more than just a way to keep Nacho out of the suspicion of the cartel. It was a much more personal decision for Mike. Another instance of Mike refusing to kill comes when he attacks the Salamanca delivery truck and leaves the driver tied up on the road. Then, at the end of Season 4, just like Walt in Breaking Bad, an employee for Gus has lost his trust after doing something incredibly risky that could spoil his entire operation, and Mike is tasked with killing this employee. I'm of course talking about Werner, the German who is leading the construction of the meth superlab. Werner and Walt directly parallel each other in these scenes in more ways than just one. Only this time, we see Mike make a case to spare Werner's life.
I'd go another way.
That I know.
That'd be a mistake.
This discussion serves no purpose.
Mike finally accepts that there's no saving Werner's life at this point, but by taking initiative towards being the one to kill him, he can allow him the opportunity to save his wife by letting Werner call her on the phone, something Gus or another henchman wouldn't give Werner the opportunity to do because they don't have the same respect for him that Mike does. This is not only the first person Mike kills under Gus, but the first person Mike has killed after killing the cops who murdered his son and moving to Albuquerque to try and escape his past. It visibly weighs on Mike in this moment, because he truly does not want Werner to have to die.
God damn it.
It's a tragic moment that sets Mike on the road to get to the place where we first meet him in Breaking Bad. This is best explained by Mike himself in a conversation with Saul about choices and consequences.
We all make our choices. And those choices, they put us on a road. Sometimes those choices seem small, but they put you on the road. You think about getting off, but eventually you're back on it. And the road we're on led us out to the desert and everything that happened there and straight back to where we are right now. And nothing can be done about that.
Now, with this new context for Mike's character, let's return to the original scene in Breaking Bad and see what subtext has been added through Better Call Saul's brilliance. Mike's response to Walt telling him you don't have to do this, saying,
Yeah, unfortunately I do, Walter.
hits in a much more sincere way. Where at first we thought he was saying that it was unfortunate for Walter, we now know that Mike takes no joy in carrying out these murders either. When Mike tells Walter,
I can't do it. I'm sorry.
he's not just saying that as a shallow courtesy to Walter, he's truly sorry that it can't go another way. He doesn't take joy in killing these people, he simply accepts that it's part of his life and line of work. We haven't even discussed how Better Call Saul transforms the comic relief Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad into a tragic and troubled character through the storytelling of Better Call Saul. When Better Call Saul was announced, I knew that the writers of Breaking Bad wouldn't disappoint, but I was also unsure if they could catch lightning in a bottle twice. What Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould have accomplished with Better Call Saul is arguably more impressive than what they did with Breaking Bad, because of the immense pressure that was placed on them when you commit yourself to a spin-off of the greatest show of all time. I'm going to thoroughly enjoy and cherish every episode of the final season, because I know cable TV will be left with a hole that will be nearly impossible to fill.